Aloha. And helicopter flew overhead, and there's some other things that just happened. So if you're out there joining me, please go ahead and comment below and tell me you're out there. Very excited about today's talk, which is about questions. Now, questions aren't just polite conversations. We starter, they're really about helping us do so much more. And what if, what if the fastest way to initiate change is to, and whether that's in your life and whether that's with family, it isn't pushing, it isn't telling, it isn't fighting, but asking the right question. And I learned this initially when I met Doug Krug. I think it was 1996, Doug. Anyway, he told me and explained how questions are our ultimate empowerment tool and why and how that works. Now, if I told you just do it instead of asking you a question to say, well, for example, many of us feel we have to tell others what to do, right? I just need to tell them. That's what so many people have told me. I just have to tell them. No one else is going to give them honest feedback. Well, what if there's another way in order to get what you want and still convey your message, but do it in a way that people will actually maybe take action? Wouldn't that be more pleasant? And you don't have to push, you don't have to fight, you don't have to. So, parents with kids, I wish I'd learned a lot of these things when my daughter was younger. I think she would have benefited greatly because it's so much easier just to tell people something. I think we're hardwired to do that. And so I want to talk about the question because we basically can influence things in ways to get what we want, not by telling, but by asking really effective questions, because that's what it's about. And Laura Stewart, my dear friend, also reinforced it's all about the questions. What are we asking ourselves? What are we asking of others? What are organizations running off? And I'll just give you a hint in one area. This is just how it really came to pass for me. I looked at a situation when I took over the Veterans Day Parade. For those of you who don't know me, I was in the military for 34 years, 4 years at West Point, and then 30 years active duty. And after that time, I really wasn't interested in doing any veteran things. Sorry, guys. But I wasn't. I really wanted to go on and I wanted to help people deal with the adversity that I faced in military. And I did it through love, not through yelling or screaming. I wish I'd known about effective questions because it sure would have helped me throughout my career. Instead, I just engaged when I could. I gave people the facts. But the fact is people don't want the facts. They want to be influenced in a way that it's their own idea. So when I retired, flash forward, when I retired and I ended up becoming, because I thought, I could do this even better, the parade. There were some things. I was honored as the Grand Marshal. I was very happy for that because women were being honored as the Grand Marshal. And I ended up taking over this organization that would meet in preparation for this one event, would meet 9 months of the year every week. And I don't know about you, but I really get antsy in meetings. I want to impart what's most important as opposed to go through routine. I can sit in a meeting much longer if it's not the routine that we're covering, but we're covering those things that are important that we need to highlight and get input from the group, because you don't just want them sitting being a one-way conversation. You want to get the input, and I always did for every single person in that room. And so I thought, what can I do to be better? Well, number one is I came up with a question that I felt was very impactful for what we were trying to do. And the question for our team was, how can we organize and conduct our parade in ways that benefit our veterans and our community all year? So you got that question? How can we organize and conduct a parade that will benefit our veterans and community all year? The input from the team, magic. And we create magic on that day because people understand how we're trying to not just work together, which is great, but to make a positive impact. And so what questions are your organizations running off of? What are your events running off? What are people trying to do in order to create in others? And so that was one where I wanted to make sure that I covered. Another thing in questions is, here's a couple bonus ones. It's like, many of us want to help other people, but when we ask a question, we don't get that response. And I covered in another video about how if my husband asks me if I need any help, it's I can't say yes. I just can't say yes. I have real problem doing that. And so what he's learned to do is, if I respond right away and I say no, then he knows I'm good. But if I pause and I'm thinking about it, then he will go ahead and help me with whatever it is I'm trying to accomplish. Um, and so when you're trying to go out there to help other people, you know what the worst question? There are not, I talked about effective questions and ineffective questions. One of the worst questions can be, need any help? Ask that of a veteran. Veterans are not needy people in general. We don't respond well to that kind of question. But need any help is really not. It's just as bad as when you're with a group of people, knowing that more than 50% don't like to share things in front of other people, let alone a group. And maybe it's late in the day and you ask, "Are there any questions?" Ugh. Terrible, right? Nobody wants to answer that. But if I said to you, I know it's getting late, and I realize that you have really worked on this issue, and I think everybody in this group is very interested in what you have to say about this topic. Would you mind sharing what you're thinking about it? Means that whatever you say is okay. There's really no wrong answer to that. And I would work on that in my meetings when I was in command, especially, but all meetings, and trying to make sure that I'm asking a question that actually helps people feel safe and able to contribute. And I have other rules to make sure that we engage people who can be very toxic in a meeting. But we won't talk about that there. Let's focus on questions. We'll talk about how to run meetings in that way. If you're interested, let me know, because I have some real insights to how to lovingly stop the interrupters and the people who just have to share their point of view in a way that shuts everybody else in the room down. I decided I would not hold a meeting where we started off that way. And I remember Doug Krug having a story where someone wanted to introduce him and he said, I don't have the time to recover from your introduction. No, please, I'll introduce myself. Does that make sense? So um, let's see. Some of the things that I wanted to say is, when you have a powerful question, you're not forcing others to respond in that way. What you're doing is you're inviting them. Isn't that such a lovely way to do it, when you invite people into your space with an effective question? And I realize these aren't very sexy on the surface, but questions you ask of yourself and others is infinitely empowering to you and to those around you. And guess what? They also draw people closer to you when you ask these kind of insightful, helpful, um, thoughtful questions to people in in whatever conversation you're going to have, rather than you sit here and, well, I have an opinion on that. If you're going to open your mouth and say that, chances are the other people may not share that opinion. And by sharing that up front and not caring about what other people are doing, I really do care about other people's feelings and making them comfortable, because I know that when I do that, they will give me those gems of understanding and knowledge and insight that, one, keep me from going off a cliff when I think I'm going in the right direction, but two, they usually do it, and it's like a multiplier when they offer their insights. And so I came up, we can continue this conversation. Does anyone, if anyone has any questions, please let me know. Um, but I thought a great acronym for today would be the acronym ASK. ASK. So what does that mean? Can you imagine? A, align your focus. Why? Because your questions are what shape not just your vision, but what will happen next. And when you ask yourself what your questions you ask of yourself and of others, it also helps you what you see and what you don't see, because you leave it in a way that others can contribute rather than really telling others what that might be. And it can be very hard because we're not very skilled. I've really observed that most people are not skilled in asking questions in a way that helps shape their future. By aligning your focus, which is the A, aligning your focus helps you get more of what you want. Because it's easy when you're not asking questions and you're stating strong opinions, that you're going to get what I call an interception strategy, exactly what you don't want. And so your questions you want when you're asking align, what is your focus? Are you wanting to cause trouble because you're going to criticize someone else about something because you feel it's important that you share your observation? Or are you going to be able to ask a question that aligns with the outcome you're seeking, and gives you that feedback and helps them find the answers that will work for them? What's the S? Spark ownership. I talked about this. It invites action instead of resistance. And that is so powerful and empowering. It invites people to do things. Why? Because people don't resist their own ideas. And something I have shared with you before is, for whose reason do people change? Not because you tell them. Almost never happens that way. That's what I've observed and I've been told. It happens because they want to change. They have to have the reason to do it. So when we ask these really great questions, these effective questions, we spark creativity, we spark all kinds of action and things. Let's see. So keeping the K. The K, so you have align your focus, spark ownership, and K is keep the momentum going. Keep the momentum going with the questions that you ask, because it fuels that progress. It will help you fuel that progress because they build movement, they build momentum. Every meeting, every project, relationship flourishes. It just is nurtured when you have empowering questions. You fuel it by your empowering questions. And so you can see why in the parade, if someone didn't show up, the others knew what we were trying to accomplish, and people would step in. It was that synchronicity of life that I often share with others, because it allows you to not get hung up on what you planned on doing and didn't happen. It allows you to be open to the opportunities of things that oftentimes are even better than what you planned. But if you're hardened and you have your goal and you are stuck hard to it the way that that's got to be, then you aren't asking questions, are you? You're just telling people what to do. So when you think about questions, think about how your life, your leadership, your relationships, they all hinge on that one thing. They hinge on the quality of the questions. So if you shift your questions and you people help people and invite people to give of themselves. Some people want to just be told what to do, and I understand that, but the problem is it's not sustainable. But when you ask a better question, what better question could you be asking as a question that you could ask yourself instead of, especially when you're not getting what you want? You may be getting exactly what you don't want, that interception strategy. But if you join the movement and you have that heart and courage and wisdom, then please, when you ask, you align your focus, you spark ownership, you keep that momentum alive, and you do it one question at a time. I hope that helps you. It sure has helped me in getting more of the things with less aggravation. And I look forward to you dropping what your wisdom is as it pertains to questions in the chat so we all can take a look. Aloha. Thank you so much for joining me.